The ground shook beneath Aaron Vale's boots as he ran across the scorched alien valley. Smoke curled in thick, gray spirals around jagged rocks, and the heat from fissures in the ground singed his arms through his light armor. A low, labored roar echoed over the wind, a sound that made his stomach tighten. Something alive was in trouble. Something huge. Ahead, twisted metal and shattered rock marked the crater where the dragon had fallen. Aaron stopped for a moment, his heart pounding. The creature lay half-buried, its massive wings pinned under jagged stone. He could see its scales flickering like liquid metal shimmering in the smoke. Something about them made him blink. Iridescent veins pulsed beneath the surface, glowing faintly like alien circuitry. He'd never seen anything like it. "Hold on. I've got you," he muttered, sprinting forward. Rocks crumbled under his boots as he leapt over a fissure. A sudden tremor shook the ground, throwing him to one knee. Dust filled his lungs. He tasted grit and iron. A larger crack hissed beneath the dragon's head, and for a second, Aaron thought the creature would be crushed completely. But he pushed forward, dragging himself across the unstable ground. The dragon's eyes flickered open, revealing deep amber orbs that seemed almost human in their expression. Pain and fear shone there, and for a brief instant, Aaron felt the weight of another being's suffering pressing into him. Without hesitation, he wrapped his arms around a shard of broken metal and began levering rubble away from the dragon's wings. The smoke stung, the heat burned, and rocks shifted unpredictably, but he refused to stop. Suddenly, the ground beneath him cracked wide like a jagged mouth. Aaron's heart leapt as one foot plunged toward a glowing lava fissure. He rolled to the side just in time, feeling the heat scorch his armor. The dragon thrashed weakly, groaning in pain, and the noise made him flinch. He hadn't realized how fragile the creature was, how close death really was. "Easy. I need you alive," he whispered, scanning the edges of the crater for safer footing. He grabbed a heavy, twisted pipe lying nearby, using it as a lever to lift a slab of rock pinning the dragon's wing. The creature hissed sharply and sparks of heat radiated from its scales, but it didn't strike him. Its trust, or perhaps its confusion, kept it still long enough for him to shift the stone. Finally the wing was free. The dragon's chest heaved violently, lungs straining as it sucked in air. Aaron dropped beside it, sweat dripping into his eyes. He glanced at the glowing veins under its scales. His scientific instincts flared. Something in its blood, its energy, it was unlike anything recorded. He had to keep it alive, had to understand this miracle before the valley swallowed them both. A sudden gust of wind threw him backward, dust and ash blinding him. The cliff above groaned. Aaron froze. Then, with a deafening crack, a slab of rock broke loose, sliding down toward them. Instinct overrode thought. He lunged at the dragon, grabbing its snout and rolling it aside. The boulders slammed where they had just been lying, sending a shockwave that rattled bones. Aaron's chest heaved as he caught his breath. The dragon, injured but alive, blinked at him slowly. Its shimmering eyes met his, and for a fleeting moment, it was as if it understood him. Pain, fear, and something like gratitude passed between them. Aaron's heart tightened. This wasn't just a fight for survival, it was a choice. To act or to stand aside. He pulled the creature further into the cavern's mouth, dragging it toward shadowed rock that promised safety. Each step was a battle. His arms burned, his legs shook, and the dragon's weight pressed against him like molten metal. But he refused to stop. Every inch forward was a small victory. Every gasp of the dragon's breath a heartbeat he had preserved. Then, just as the creature seemed finally out of immediate danger, a strange sound cut through the valley, a low, resonant hum that made the air itself vibrate. Aaron froze, sweat stinging his eyes. The dragon stiffened, ears twitching, wings raising slightly in defense. Something unseen had entered the valley, something enormous, something watching. Aaron swallowed hard, gripping the dragon's scaled snout. He had saved it from the rubble, from the cliffs, but the valley wasn't done with them. He glanced up at the smoke-filled sky. Shadows moved among the rocks, and a chilling realization struck him. This was only the beginning. Whatever lurked beyond the smoke was bigger, faster, and more dangerous than anything he had faced. The dragon hissed softly, almost like a whisper, pressing its enormous head against his chest. Its amber eyes locked onto his, and Aaron felt a spark of understanding, a fragile connection. It trusted him, or at least it didn't attack. But the valley groaned again, louder this time, and Aaron knew one thing for certain. They weren't safe yet. Not by a long shot. A fissure cracked beneath the dragon's claw, sending dust and pebbles into the air. Aaron gritted his teeth. He had saved it once. Could he do it again? He didn't know. But he would try. And whatever waited in the shadows was about to test both of them. Aaron's arms ached as he dragged the dragon deeper into the cavern. Its massive weight pressed into him, but the injured creature's breathing had begun to steady. The glow from its scales pulsed faintly, casting eerie patterns on the walls. Aaron couldn't shake the feeling that those patterns were alive somehow, like the cavern itself was watching them. He lowered the dragon onto a flat rock and pressed a hand against its chest, feeling the slow, uneven beat of its heart. "You're not out of this yet," he murmured. "I'm not letting you die here." The creature's eyes met his again, wide and bright with pain, but also awareness. There was a recognition there, a silent question that only he could answer. Outside the cavern, the valley was alive with movement. Shadows shifted among the rocks, and the hum from earlier grew louder, vibrating through the ground. Aaron tensed. He wasn't alone. Something massive was circling, something not natural. His instincts screamed that this valley had predators far bigger than him, and now, with the dragon injured, they were drawn to the scent of weakness. Suddenly the cavern entrance rattled. Dust fell from the ceiling as a low, resonant growl rolled through the air. Aaron's head snapped up. From the shadows, he glimpsed the shapes of other dragons, smaller than the one he'd saved, but muscular and sharp-eyed, circling the cliffs. Their wings cut the smoky air like blades and they roared in unison. The sound shook his bones. Aaron froze, unsure if they were hunting him or protecting him. One of the dragons swooped closer, talons scraping rock. Its gaze locked on him and he realized something strange. They weren't attacking. They were watching, judging, testing. His mind raced. He needed to stabilize the injured dragon before the others lost patience, or before something worse arrived. He rummaged through his pack and pulled out the compact field medkit. Alien medicine vials, stimulants and synth fiber wraps were all he had. He worked quickly, wrapping a torn wing membrane with careful precision, applying a serum he'd never tried on anything this size before. Every second mattered. The injured dragon hissed sharply, thrashing once, then settling. Its wings twitched and Aaron held his breath. Small beads of sweat ran down his temple as he realized he was improvising on the edge of survival, not just for himself but for this entire creature. One wrong move could snap a bone or trigger a defensive strike. As he worked, the hum outside grew louder still. Aaron glanced toward the cavern mouth and stiffened. Something enormous had appeared, moving with unnatural speed. A shadow darker than smoke slithered across the cliffs, and the ground trembled with each step. The smaller dragon stiffened, wings raised in defensive arcs, letting out warning screeches that echoed through the valley. Aaron's pulse spiked. "Stay calm," he muttered to the injured dragon, gripping its scaled snout to steady it. "We're not done yet." The shadow shifted again and for a split second he saw the outline of a creature taller than any building he'd ever seen, limbs coiled like cables, eyes glinting with alien intelligence. Its head tilted as if studying them, analyzing. The smaller dragons reacted instantly. They screeched, claws striking the rock in unison, and the air seemed to shiver with energy. But then something unexpected happened. Instead of attacking Aaron, they formed a defensive circle around him and the injured dragon. Their allegiance, or at least their curiosity, was clear. The human had stabilized the creature, proven his courage and earned a fragile trust. Aaron's mind raced. He had to act fast. He picked up a shard of rock, heavy but manageable, and hurled it toward the cliff edge near the predator. Sparks of molten rock flew, and the shadow recoiled slightly. Not enough to drive it off but enough to gain a few precious seconds. The injured dragon stirred under his hands, sensing movement, and Aaron realized he needed to get them deeper into the cavern, or the predator would strike before dawn. He pushed the dragon with all his strength, feeling its bulk slide over uneven stone. The smaller dragons flanked them, beating wings to create gusts that knocked loose debris away. It was chaotic, terrifying, and beautiful in a way that made Aaron's chest tighten. He had never felt so alive, and so responsible. Every breath, every step, every decision now carried life or death consequences. Suddenly a piercing screech split the air. The predator's shadow lunged toward the cavern mouth, talons extended, aiming for both of them. Aaron's stomach dropped. He had seconds to react. He grabbed the dragon's head, turning it toward him and shouting, "Now!" The dragon flinched, sending a tremor through its massive frame. Rocks tumbled, dust exploded, and the predator swiped blindly, striking only air as Aaron rolled aside. He scrambled to his feet, heart hammering. The injured dragon's eyes met his again, this time calmer, almost approving. They had survived the first real strike. Small victory but far from the end. The predator was still out there. The smaller dragons circled above, screeching warnings. The valley itself seemed alive with danger. Aaron took a deep breath, glancing back at the glowing veins under the injured dragon's scales. He could feel a connection forming, faint but undeniable. This creature, this alien being, was tethered to him now in some unspoken way. His courage, his intelligence, his willingness to act had created an unbreakable link. But even as relief washed over him, a new tremor shook the cavern. The predator wasn't finished. It tested the cliff walls again, eyes glinting with alien calculation. Aaron's pulse surged. They had survived the first attack, but he knew in his bones that the real challenge was still ahead. A low hiss escaped the injured dragon's throat, echoing eerily in the cavern. It wasn't fear. It was warning. And somewhere in the shadows, something larger, something intelligent, was watching. Aaron's hands tightened into fists. He had saved it once. He would do it again. But could he? Aaron pressed his back against the cavern wall, sweat dripping into his eyes as he watched the predator stalk the valley below. Its shadow stretched like black smoke across the rocks, every step deliberate, every movement filled with alien precision. The smaller dragons hovered nervously above, wings beating fast, claws scraping stone, eyes locked on the intruder. The injured dragon beneath him shifted, hissing softly, its scales glowing brighter as if warning him. Aaron's hands trembled, but he forced himself to stay calm. He had to understand what he was dealing with before acting. He leaned closer, letting his forehead touch the dragon's snout. The heat from its scales pressed against his skin, but there was something else, something almost alive in the glow of its veins. A rhythm. A pulse that wasn't just physical. Then it hit him. The dragon wasn't just reacting instinctively. It was thinking. It was aware of the predator, aware of him, aware of the danger, and aware that he had saved it. For the first time, Aaron realized this wasn't just survival. This was trust. You can sense them, he whispered almost to himself. You know they're coming. The dragon blinked slowly, amber eyes fixed on him. And then, in a way that defied all logic, he felt a surge of emotion, curiosity, caution, and recognition, all focused on him. It wasn't telepathy. It was something older, something deeper, but it communicated the same truth. He was now part of this moment, this creature's life, and it was watching him as carefully as he watched it. The predator moved closer, claws scraping rock in a deliberate rhythm that echoed through the cavern. Aaron scanned the cliff edges, noting every crevice and shadow. He needed to make a decision, and fast. Run and risk leaving the dragon behind, or stand and fight with nothing but his wits and courage. He chose courage. Stay low, he murmured to the dragon. We're going to show them we're not prey. Using a combination of hand signals and body positioning, he guided the smaller dragons to form a barrier. They responded instantly, circling him and the injured dragon, wings cutting arcs of air that stirred dust into glowing streaks. The predator froze for a moment, scanning the formation. Then it hissed, a sound that reverberated in his chest like a drum of doom. Aaron's heart raced. He had no weapon strong enough to pierce its hide, no armor to withstand its claws. His only chance was leverage, distraction, and precision. He grabbed a jagged piece of rock and hurled it toward a loose cliff edge. Sparks flew, stones tumbled down, and the predator flinched, but it wasn't deterred. Instead, it changed its angle, circling with careful intelligence, testing their defenses. He exhaled slowly. This was no ordinary creature. This was strategy, observation, and calculation. He had to think faster than it did. He scanned the dragon's glowing veins, his mind connecting dots. The pulses weren't random, they were communication, a pattern of emotion and instinct that could influence the others. If he could sync with it, if he could guide them, maybe they had a chance. Aaron leaned closer to the injured dragon again, pressing his palm to its glowing chest. He mimicked its breathing, counting the rhythm of the pulses. Slowly he matched them, guiding the dragon's subtle shifts. The smaller dragons adjusted instantly, responding to the change. A flicker of comprehension passed over their eyes. They weren't just following, they were trusting. Trusting him. The predator lunged suddenly, testing the formation. Aaron felt the cavern tremble beneath the force. Instinct kicked in. He grabbed a nearby rock, slamming it into the cliff wall to redirect the falling debris. The predator dodged easily, but the smaller dragons reacted immediately, forming a tighter barrier, wings flashing, claws striking at precise intervals. A strange calm settled over him as he realized the truth. They weren't just defending. They were acknowledging him. The injured dragon shifted slightly, eyes fixed on his face, and the glow under its scales brightened. Recognition. respect, and something like acceptance. Aaron's pulse surged. "You trust me?" he whispered. It wasn't a question. It was a statement. And the dragon's eyes held the answer. It had felt his courage, his empathy, his willingness to risk everything to save it. That single act had changed the balance. Then the predator hissed again, louder this time, and retreated to the shadows, calculating, observing. It wasn't gone. Not yet. But for the first time, Aaron realized they had won a small victory. The injured dragon lowered its wings, letting out a soft, almost musical trill. The sound carried through the cavern, and the smaller dragons quieted instantly, circling in acknowledgement. Aaron sat back on his heels, chest heaving. Sweat streaked across his face, mixing with dust. He had saved the dragon once. He had earned the trust of the others. And yet, the valley was far from safe. Beyond the cliffs, beyond the shadows, larger mysteries waited. A flicker of movement caught his eye, a faint shimmer across the rocks, almost like the air itself was bending. He froze. The predator wasn't acting alone. Something else was coming. Something intelligent. Something that had been waiting for a human to appear in this valley. The dragon nudged him gently with its snout, its glow dimming slightly as if warning him. Aaron realized this bond, this connection, was fragile. One wrong move could undo everything. He looked into the creature's amber eyes and made a decision. They weren't running. Not yet. They were standing together. And whatever came next, he would face it. Not just as a survivor, but as a part of something larger, something alive, something that had recognized him. The predator would learn soon enough that courage could bend the impossible, that intelligence could turn the tide, and that empathy, even in the darkest valleys, was a weapon stronger than claws. The cavern trembled once more, dust falling in thick clouds. Aaron tightened his grip on the dragon's snout, staring into the shadows. The predator was testing them. But he had a secret weapon, the trust of a creature no human had ever commanded before. And then, from the deepest corner of the cavern, a faint rumble echoed, a vibration that didn't come from the predator. Something older. Something awake. Something watching. Aaron swallowed hard. He had faced impossible odds before, but whatever stirred in the depths was beyond anything he had imagined. His pulse quickened. He had gained trust, yes, but now a far greater challenge was about to reveal itself. He took a deep breath, eyes on the glowing dragon beneath him. Whatever it is, we face it together. The cavern fell silent for a heartbeat, but the shadows at the mouth of the valley shifted, and Aaron knew the next moment could change everything. Aaron's heart pounded as the shadow moved closer, stretching across the valley like a living nightmare. The predator was enormous, far larger than anything he had imagined, but now he understood, it wasn't alone. The air shimmered and more shapes emerged from the smoke, each taller than a building, their limbs coiling like living cables. The smaller dragons circled above, screeching warnings that echoed like alarms. The injured dragon beneath him shifted, wings trembling, but its amber eyes found his. There was trust there now, unwavering. The bond he had formed wasn't just survival, it was recognition, a connection that defied species, a silent agreement. They would fight together. Aaron gritted his teeth. Then let's show them what we can do. He scanned the cavern quickly, spotting jagged rocks and loose stalactites overhead. Every instinct screamed that he had one chance to turn the environment into a weapon. He grabbed the largest shard he could lift and hurled it toward a stalactite cluster. Sparks flew as it struck, and the cluster tumbled down, crashing near the predator. It snarled and shifted, reassessing. Not deterred but cautious. Aaron leapt to his feet, heart hammering. The dragon beneath him twitched and groaned, but he pressed a hand to its glowing chest. Steady. Follow me. He began guiding it deeper into the cavern, toward a narrow chasm that could funnel the attackers. The smaller dragons followed, wings beating in precise arcs, forming a protective corridor around him. Every move was synchronized, instinctive. Aaron realized he wasn't commanding them, they were reading him. Responding to courage. Responding to leadership. The predator lunged suddenly, its massive claw swiping across the cavern entrance. Dust exploded, rocks fell, and Aaron rolled to the side, narrowly avoiding being crushed. The injured dragon hissed in alarm, but he pressed it forward. We move together, he shouted. He grabbed a jagged rock again, swinging it to knock loose more debris, creating a wall of obstacles. The predator stumbled slightly, buying them precious seconds. But then a low, resonant rumble shook the cavern. The predator wasn't just testing them, it was strategizing. Its companions spread, circling above, attempting to flank. Aaron's pulse raced. He had no weapon capable of killing them outright. His only advantage was cunning, speed, and the fragile alliance he had built. He turned to the injured dragon. "We fly. Now." With all his strength, he helped it lift off, holding onto its scaled snout. Sparks of energy pulsed along its veins as it struggled to rise. The smaller dragons formed a protective V above and beside them, wings slicing the smoky air. Aaron's stomach churned as the ground dropped beneath them. One false move and they could all be torn apart. The predator lunged again, faster this time, aiming directly for them. Aaron twisted on the dragon's back, pointing toward the narrow chasm. "Go. Follow me." The dragon responded instinctively, dodging the first strike, then the second. Rocks tumbled from above, and the predators were forced to navigate the narrowing canyon carefully. Aaron's mind worked furiously. Every turn, every flap of the dragon's wings, every beat of the smaller dragon's wings counted. One misstep and the predator would catch them. He began using the glowing veins on the injured dragon as a guide, timing movements with its pulses. It was risky, but it created a rhythm the smaller dragons followed instinctively, forming a coordinated defense that the predator hadn't anticipated. Suddenly, one of the predator's companions dove from above, aiming directly at Aaron. Reflex took over. He swung a rock at the cliff wall just as it struck, causing a cascade of debris to fall. The predator swerved, narrowly avoiding death. Aaron barely had time to breathe. "That's it," he shouted. "Keep moving." The injured dragon struggled, wings faltering, but Aaron pressed harder. His arms burned, his grip ached, but he would not let go. The V formation of dragons around them adjusted instantly, their trust in him evident in every movement. Together, they guided the injured dragon toward a safer cavern mouth, where the shadows of the predators could not follow. As they cleared the immediate danger, the injured dragon flopped onto a ledge, exhausted but alive. Its amber eyes found Aaron's, glowing faintly. The smaller dragons circled above, screeching softly, almost reverently. They had acknowledged him as part of their group. Not just a human but a leader, a protector, a comrade. Aaron sank to the ground beside the dragon, chest heaving, sweat dripping down his face. He pressed his hand to the creature's head. "We did it, together." The injured dragon nuzzled him gently, a small movement that carried more emotion than words could convey. He realized then that courage, empathy, and intelligence had carried them through impossible odds. But even as relief washed over him, the valley trembled again. The shadows beyond the canyon shifted, larger and stranger than before. A low, rumbling vibration pulsed through the rocks, a signal of something ancient awakening. The predator was only the first wave. Something older, something intelligent, something that had been waiting for a human to appear in this valley, was stirring. Aaron's pulse surged. He stood, hand on the dragon's chest, eyes scanning the cavern. The small victories had earned him trust, yes, but survival was only the beginning. The bond he had formed with the dragon, the unspoken recognition from the smaller clan, was powerful. But the challenge ahead would test them in ways he could not yet imagine. The injured dragon pressed its snout against his shoulder, glowing faintly in the dim cavern light. Aaron took a deep breath. "We face it together," he whispered. "Whatever comes next, we face it together." From the shadows, a faint shimmer moved, almost like the air itself bending. The predators were regrouping, but something else, older, larger, and more intelligent, was watching. Aaron's jaw tightened. The fight was far from over. The dragon beneath him trembled with anticipation. He had proven his courage. He had earned their trust. And now, the real battle, the one that could change everything, was about to begin. Aaron sank to the cavern floor, chest heaving as the dust from the battle slowly settled. The injured dragon lay beside him, its massive body rising and falling with shallow, labored breaths. The smaller dragons circled above, their wings folding gently, eyes flickering with quiet curiosity. For the first time there was calm, a fragile, tense calm, but it felt earned. He pressed a hand to the injured dragon's scaled snout, feeling the warmth pulsing beneath his palm. The glow of its veins had dimmed slightly, but the rhythm was steady now, a heartbeat they had preserved together. "You made it," he whispered, voice hoarse, eyes brimming with sweat and relief. The dragon's amber eyes met his, unblinking and clear, as if acknowledging that this human, this fragile, daring creature, had risked everything to save it. The smaller dragons landed on rocky ledges nearby, wings folding, talons scratching lightly against stone. Their amber and sapphire eyes tracked him, studying, analyzing, understanding. They weren't hostile. They weren't predators. They were witnesses. Aaron realized then that his courage had not only saved a life, it had altered the perception of an entire species. Humans could act with intelligence, empathy, and resolve where others might falter. "Thank you," he murmured, more to himself than to the dragons. But the sound of that single word hung in the air like a promise. The injured dragon's head nudged his shoulder, a gentle, deliberate motion as if answering. Gratitude. Recognition. Respect. Outside the cavern, the valley was quiet but not empty. Shadows moved along the cliffs, less aggressive now, more cautious, as if acknowledging the bond forming between human and dragon. The predators they had fled from lingered at the edges, hesitant, studying. They had learned something today. Courage and decisiveness could create alliances where fear once ruled. Aaron's mind raced. He had faced impossible odds, but he had survived. He had led. And he had earned trust, not by strength alone but by choice. A soft rumble echoed from deeper within the cavern system. Aaron froze, heart skipping a beat. He glanced at the injured dragon, and its eyes glimmered, alert and wary. The smaller dragon stiffened, wings tensing. Something ancient was stirring, a presence far older than the predators, far wiser and far more formidable. Aaron took a deep breath, letting his hands rest gently on the dragon's scales. He had no weapons capable of facing this new unknown, no armor that could withstand it. All he had was courage, intelligence, and the trust he had built. And somehow that felt enough. For now. Then a soft trill echoed through the cavern, a melody of sound that seemed to come from the deepest corners of the valley. The smaller dragons responded instantly, wings beating to the rhythm, eyes focused. The injured dragon lifted its massive head, the glow in its veins brightening slightly, pulsing in harmony with the trill. Aaron realized with a start, this wasn't just communication. It was a ritual, an acknowledgement, a recognition of his place among them. You accept me?" he whispered, barely daring to breathe. The dragon lowered its head to his level, eyes locked on his. The answer was clear in the rhythm of its glowing veins, in the subtle twitch of its wings, in the gentle press of its snout against his hand. He had been claimed, not as prey, not as intruder, but as ally, as part of something far greater than himself. A breeze swept through the cavern, carrying with it the scents of the valley. Smoke, scorched rock, and the faint metallic tang of alien life. The predators lingered at the edges, and Aaron noticed a change. They were no longer threats, they were observers. The valley had tested him, and in surviving, in leading, he had earned a place in a world far larger and stranger than he had imagined. The injured dragon shifted again, nudging him to stand. Its wings spread slowly, testing strength, and Aaron followed instinctively. He could feel the pulse of its power beneath his hands, the rhythm of its breath, the intelligence behind its gaze. Around them, the smaller dragons lifted, forming a protective circle that included him. For the first time he was not alone. He was among them. Aaron's mind raced. What other secrets did this valley hold? What other beings waited in the shadows, testing courage and intelligence, watching for those willing to act when others would hesitate? He didn't have the answers yet, but he knew one thing with certainty: humans could shine in ways no one expected. Courage, morality, and empathy were weapons as powerful as claws or teeth. He stepped forward, hand resting on the injured dragon's scaled flank. The smaller dragons mirrored him, circling closer. The glow of the veins under their scales pulsed in a pattern he almost understood. They were forming a bond, a community, and he was part of it now. Aaron inhaled sharply, feeling a strange warmth in his chest, a mixture of pride, relief, and awe. A distant rumble echoed again, deeper this time, vibrating through the cavern walls. The shadows shifted. Something else waited, something even larger, even older. But for now Aaron was ready. He had learned to act decisively, to think quickly, to trust instincts and build alliances where fear ruled. He had saved one life, and in doing so, had gained a connection to an entire species. He looked down at the injured dragon. Its amber eyes glimmered with intelligence, and it nudged him gently. Aaron smiled, realizing that courage could bridge worlds, and compassion could build bonds stronger than steel. They had survived the impossible together, and somehow he knew this was only the beginning. As he stood, the smaller dragons circled higher, eyes flicking to the valley beyond. Aaron glanced outward. Beyond the cliffs, beyond the smoke, something ancient and intelligent stirred. The predators were only the start. The valley still held secrets, challenges, and dangers that no human had faced before. And he would meet them all. Because now he wasn't just a human. He was part of something greater. A soft trill rose from the valley depths, echoing like a promise. Aaron's eyes narrowed, pulse quickened and a smile spread across his face. He had survived the impossible. He had earned trust. And the next adventure, whatever it held, was waiting. The valley was vast. The dragons were awake. And a human had found his place among them. The shadows shifted once more, deeper and darker than before. Something even older stirred, and Aaron felt it in his bones. He tightened his grip on the injured dragon, ready for what would come next. The story wasn't over.